Hello, YouTube. It is your boy GZTV back with another video, and I figured, before the Packers game, I know regular football or the other football games are going on. I can catch up on those later, but as of now, I think it'd be a good idea to kind of get these videos out of the way so I can actually watch that game when it starts. So, we're going to talk about the 7th episode of Ozark. This is all about invasive species, and there's a lot of cool symbolism that they do with a couple of the storylines, tie them together. I think it's really cool. So as the brilliant first season of Netflix's Ozark builds to its brutal final episodes, the writers use this chapter to really clarify how much trouble the birds have caused in this little corner of the country by being there in the summer of 2017. They are the invasive species that Jonah Bird learns about online, the outsiders who come in and completely disrupt ordinary lives like those of Sam Dermody, Russ Langmore, and Mason Young. These are normal people, obviously the Langmores have some pretty shady shit going on, but to be honest, they're pretty normal people. Marty and Wendy would tell themselves that their part of the criminal operation doesn't have direct victims or consequences, but this episode makes it clear how much their quest to protect their own family has destroyed others. And again, it kind of calls back to like a Breaking Bad, to where you have the main character who will do anything for his family, it doesn't matter who he affects, Nest Box is one of the few episodes of Ozark that picks up directly from the previous one, with the same scene, lines overlapping, they put up across, and that's what really makes that cliffhanger even more effective, is because they literally start this episode with that, and it's, man, those words are just wow, Of course, they refers to Mason and Grace Young, so Marty races to their house to protect them from the wrath of Darlene and Jacob Snell, and they're pretty much already going to be there. There's no hesitation here. The Snells get down to business. We've learned a lot about their character recently. One of the most unsettling scenes in the show's history follows on the Youngs' lawn. Marty arrives at the same time as Jacob and Darlene, and what if he didn't? The Youngs would have been dead by now. What were Jacob and Darlene willing to do at that moment? Were they actually willing to kill a pregnant woman? What would they have revealed or threatened to do? Marty insists he's going to keep the Youngs on the water, and Mason and Grace don't really know the bullet they've dodged or how creepy it is that Darlene keeps touching Grace's belly. It's pretty sinister that imagery, what they do there, that gesture. Oh my god, these are some pretty fucked up people, and, the Youngs just see them as ordinary farmers in the Ozarks, there's nothing really to them. Marty pays for Mason and Grace's safety, but it costs him everything. All $724,000 the birds have in cash and what they've been able to launder, what they've been able to earn. As Jacob says, all you got. Sounds about right. So, there you have it. So after Marty unloads his entire cash portfolio, Jonah learns about the European starling, a species that caused such absolute chaos that it basically destroyed the eastern bluebird and downed a few airplanes. Jonah, who is increasingly obsessed with death, wants to hunt them, but Wendy pushes him and Charlotte off to school, a place rarely seen on Ozark. You don't really see about school, but I guess everyone has to have their first day. I guess that's kind of an essential part of these kids' lives, and in essence, a essential part of the series. There's little time for the bird kids to be, normal kids. They kind of live a reckless life. They're not able to really go to school as much because they need to be protected. They need to live normal lives, which, going to school is a part of a normal life, but they're not able to do that when other people are hunting them. Speaking of abnormal kids, Ruth Langmore is going to talk to her awful father, Cade, and Russ is concerned that the shiner he gave Ruth could become a problem. Abusing her could cause some that might not bode well with Mr. Langmore, the senior Langmore of the family. Russ has a more immediate concern in Petty, pushing him to make sure Marty stays alive long enough for the G-Man to arrest him, because he knows what Ruth's intentions are. He probably knows what Cade's intentions are. Cade wants to kill him too. Russ doesn't know that yet, and the fact that Petty is using him, which feels more tragic with each passing scene. Oh man. There's a moving moment played perfectly by Mark Menchaca, where when Petty says, "You're better than you think you are." It feels like no one has ever said something like that to Russ Langmore, and you can kind of assume with his background and how he lives life that he probably has never experienced that much affection towards him, It's heartbreaking given how much Petty might not mean even a word of it, though some of his affection for Russ does feel increasingly legitimate as we go on and as the relationship kind of starts to build up. You kind of get this feeling that, hey, they might actually like love each other, you know. It's a balance between using him and maybe starting to care about him too. Marty has to scramble to replace the money he had to use to save the lake preacher's life, and he is trying to get anyone he can to invest, but most of the people on his client list are looking for Bruce and not him. He's going through some of his old clients. It's a reminder that Marty has the brains of the operation, but Bruce was the sweet talker, the guy who landed the clients on golf courses and in country clubs. He could get anyone. He was a people pleaser. He knew exactly what people wanted, and that's what really made their business thrive. Meanwhile, Wendy discovers that Dell is getting impatient in a terrifying way when a man who claims to be looking for real estate reveals himself to be the muscle coming to town to make sure the birds make it across the laundering finish line, to make sure they can actually get the $8 million by the end of the summer. Now that seems pretty much impossible, and I feel like what's going to end the season is going to be, will they get that or not? Will they evade danger? Yeah, it's going to be kind of what the last 3 episodes are painting, and I already kind of started watching this 6th episode. So yeah. There's a new Daryl Dixon Walking Dead series. Holy shit. Sorry, I saw that on the page. Wendy has an idea, and its name is Sam Dermody. After all, she has made Dermody Realty the best, at least one of the best in the region, and Wendy knows that Eugenia Dermody, Sam's mother, has money to invest. You know, some retirement funds, all sorts of things like that. In fact, Eugenia has close to $1 million, which is plenty for the birds. It could also produce a nice return for the Dermody clan. Wendy sells the idea to Sam so well, and we learn that Sam wants to be a motivational speaker, which is so amazing, especially given where he will end up. I don't know why they keep trying to hint at spoilers here, but it is what it is. It's a Vulture article. If you want to hate on anyone, hate on them. None of this may matter because Mason is still fighting to take down the cross in his in-construction church. He's so unhappy that Marty is forced to drop the truth bomb on him. Marty realizes this, realizes that he has to eventually tell these people the truth. The Snells are drug dealers, and they use Mason's flock to move product. They will kill Mason and Grace if they come off the lake, and I mean, Mason finding out about this, he can get Jacob to stop doing this, because Jacob was doing it without him knowing. So if he knows now, I feel like he can just tell him to stop. Obviously, he might, threaten him and stuff like that, but, it kind of thwarts him to not do this anymore. They will kill Mason and Grace if they come off the lake. The naive dummy later insists to Grace that they fight back against the Snells, pointing out that he survived that bullet in the robbery in St. Louis, giving Grace one of the episode's best lines. God wasn't protecting you. The kid had shitty aim, and it was one fucking bullet compared to what the Snells could probably do to you, which is take 5 to 10 people and just beat the shit out of you, probably. You're not evading the Snells. I don't think this guy understands the gravity of what the Snells stand for. The episode intensifies when Marty and Wendy discover that Charlotte and Wyatt skipped school. They race to the Langmore compound and discover that Wyatt helped Charlotte try to get back to Chicago, which kind of an asshole for doing that, but it's not like it was his decision to do so. She will have to transfer in St. Louis. Maybe they can catch her. That's kind of their goal. Wendy and Ruth race off to the city while Marty borrows the Beast to go woo Eugenia Dermody. Even though their daughter's on the run, I'm not really sure why they're focused on this Dermody action right now. It's kind of fucked up. It's the first scene really where Ruth feels almost like a member of the Bird family, which is a really cool dynamic. It's a family that will alternatively welcome her and betray her in the future. That's what they're saying here. Mason Young, I don't know why the fuck he keeps doing this. Mason Young comes to talk to the Snells. This is gonna get spicy. You already know when you're watching this scene. And he does so during a big drug dealer, big pig roast party happening on their estate. And then Mason insists that the Snells stop using his flock to traffic because he's kind of letting them know, hey, I know what you guys are doing. Jacob asks why and argues that everyone should be considered equal in God, and in Mason's eyes kind of twisting the whole idea of Christianity on his head, Don't the dealers deserve a little religion too? Who's it hurting? And Jacob, who loves to monologue, points out that he runs one of the biggest poppy farms in the country, a place that cherishes, feeds, and provides for families. He further points out how Marty isn't exactly the safe option, and Mason learns that he's basically caught between two massive drug operations, and there's really no way out of it. He's going to have to choose which one is the safer option. He's the eastern bluebird about to be dropped by the invading species. After Wendy and Ruth find Charlotte about to board a bus to Chicago, they go to the Clink to see Cade, who gets grosser with each appearance. He doesn't care about his daughter's black eye as much as the amount of makeup she's wearing, and that Marty is still alive. Obviously, he's gotten intel from people around him. Speaking of Marty, he convinces Eugenia to invest, in a scene that reminds the viewer how good Marty can be at selling his product. Marty will steal the money from Eugenia under the guise of investing, presuming he can then pay it back. Which, will he be able to? I don't know. It's a lot on his shoulders. Eugenia and Sam are fighting over that hideous painting. She's clearly an awful person who has held her son back whenever she can. He has had enough and reveals that her new financial guru is married to Wendy, to a woman whom Eugenia despises, so obviously that kind of changes her opinion on Marty. She goes off, insisting that they get the money back, and Sam fires her. As they're fighting over where to put the sign, the woman puts her fingers in her ears, walks backward in the street, and gets nailed by a garbage truck. Which is funny, and it's kind of ironic, because maybe she should have listened to Sam, put it by the lakeside, but that's what got her killed, her not listening to her son. And it's like a really beautiful, obviously death is not beautiful at all, but like it's a really beautiful imagery that this show paints. And yeah, if you would have put it by the lakeside, you wouldn't have died there. But there you go. So then we move on to Mason. So as Mason burns his church and Darlene itches to kill Marty before someone else does, a fight brews. I mean, Marty has a fucking like couple $1 million bounty. I mean, he has an $8 million bounty on his head, you know. And Del Rio is probably more than willing to hire someone that can actually get the job done. Wendy thinks the kids should maybe go back to Chicago on their own and stay with friends, and it gets pretty heated. There's a pretty crazy argument going on. Any of us run, we're dead, says Marty, but Wendy already feels dead inside. Like, what is the point of living? The fight builds as the scene cuts to Charlotte struggling during a night swim, which is, oh man, it's kind of stressful, really, because there's nothing that the bird parents can do. As Marty and Wendy exercise marital demons, it looks as though their daughter might drown and kill herself. And Jason Bateman gets one of his most vulnerable lines when he says, "Oh, you broke my heart, Wendy," which is something he's never said to his wife before. Charlotte goes under, her feet touching the lake floor. She pushes up, breaks the surface, and gasps for air. And we all know how hard it is to fucking drown yourself. I don't know if anyone's ever tried that, but like your body has some crazy instincts that are gonna push you back up. But anyways, that's gonna do it for the video. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Pretty solid episode. Very dramatic. There's quite some tension going on here. I'll have to watch the other episode today for tomorrow's video. And we're going to have a weekly track roundup, which I'm probably actually going to shoot real quick so I can just get my videos done for the day. But anyways, have a rest of your day.